Hi there. So today we're going to read 3 chapters in Habibi by Naomi Shihab. The first chapter I am going to read to you today is called Manger. She did not want her head to be filled with large wishes and worries. The Abouds began looking for a house near Jerusalem, and everything was either too big, too expensive, too little, too crumbling, too noisy, or too strange. One elegant house faced a billboard advertising the Museum of Jewish Hatred. Poppy told the realtor soberly that he was sorry, but he couldn't bear to look out his window at that depressing sign. Waves of sadness swept over Leanna unexpectedly every time they entered a house that might become theirs and left it again. She thought of their neat white house with the green shutters in St. Louis. She thought of their wooden screen door banging on its hinge. They kept passing the road to the sign Bethlehem, and Leanna found herself singing, "Oh, little town of Bethlehem," and "Away in a manger," till Rafik covered his ears. Each night, she added to her sack of dirty laundry at the hotel, refolding any clothes she could stand to wear another day in a stack on top of her open suitcase. Poppy asked, "Did you bring anything but that black t-shirt?" Only one of her suitcases had been sprung open so far. She wanted to be surprised later to find more familiar clothes and treasures waiting in her bags. Rafik, however, had opened every case he brought and was living in a heap of toys and treasures, a neon battery-powered yo-yo, a skunk, puppet, and a harmonica. He even had the group picture of his last year's school class standing up on his bedside table. Leanna wished Uncle Zeke, Poppy's oldest brother, had not asked for her hand for his son on their second trip to the village. Poppy got so furious he actually hissed and translated his answer for them later. "We do not embrace such archaic customs, and furthermore, does she look ready to be married? She is 14 years old." In the village, everyone seemed to be staring at her now as if she were an exotic animal in a zoo. She felt awkward around her relatives, as if they had more in mind for her than she could have ever dreamed. She wished she had not heard that an Arab boy who was found kissing a girl in the alley behind her house got beaten up by the girl's brothers. What was wrong with kissing? Everybody else kissed constantly over here, but on both cheeks, not on the mouth. Had people reverted to the Stone Age just because everything in Jerusalem was made of stone? Poppy set Leanna down on the hotel room couch, which they were growing quite familiar with. "You are missing the point," he said. "If you imagine you can measure one country's customs by another's, public kissing, I mean kissing on the mouth like romantic kissing, is not okay here. It is simply not done. Anyway, it is not supposed to be done." "Not by anyone?" she asked. "Not by Greeks or Jews or Armenians, or only not by Arabs?" With her luck, she had been into the only non-kissing culture just when it started feeling like a valuable activity. "I cannot speak for Greeks and Jews and Armenians. I used to trade desserts with them, but I cannot speak for them regarding kissing. Somehow, I do not think they are as strict about kissing as the Arabs are, probably to their benefit. Of course, anyone can kiss once they are married." Poppy looked suddenly alarmed. "Is there someone you want to kiss?" "Oh, sure, I just arrived 9 days ago and have already staked him out." "Leanna, you must be patient. Cultural differences aren't learned or understood immediately. Most importantly, you must abide by the guidelines where you are living. This is common sense. It will protect you. You know that phrase you always hated, 'When in Rome, do as the Romans do'? You must remember you are not in the United States." As if he had to remind her. When she went to bed that night, She pressed her face into the puffy cotton pillow. It smelled very different from the pillows in their St. Louis house, which smelled more like fresh air, like a good, loose breeze. This pillow smelled like long, lonely years of bleach. The next day, Leanna's family rented the whole upstairs apartment of a large white stone house out in the countryside, halfway between Jerusalem and the town of Ramallah. A bus stopped right in front. Surrounded by stony fields, the house had a good flat roof they'd be able to read their books on if they spread out blankets. Poppy pointed out the old refugee camp down the smaller road behind the house. It had been one of the first ones from 1948. From the roof, it looked like a colorful village of small buildings crowded close together. "Believe me," Poppy said, "it looks better from a distance. Camps are difficult places." Beyond it sat the abandoned Jerusalem airport, a few streaks of gray runway, and a small tower. "It's fast asleep," Poppy said sadly. Each wide-open empty bedroom in the house had a whole wall of built-in wooden cupboards and closets and a private sun porch. Finally, they'd be able to unpack. Their new landlord, Abu Danan, which meant the father of Janan, looked like the prophet of gloom, with a huge stomach too big for his pants. He told them they probably wouldn't be able to get a telephone hookup for at least a year, since he just got his after requesting it forever. Poppy said, "Well, I'll work on it immediately since I'm a doctor and require one. Also," and he winked at Leanna, "don't teenagers need to have telephones?" As if she had anyone to call. "Where is Janan?" she asked. "Who?" Poppy asked. "The person this man is the father of." "In Chicago, grown up." Too bad. She'd thought she might have a built-in friend. From the immaculate bare kitchen of their new flat, Rafik and Leanna could hear squawking rising from the backyard. They went downstairs and stepped outside to find a pen of plump black chickens pecking heartily in straw. A short cottage held their laying nests. "We're living at a manger after all," Rafik whispered. "You want to sneak downstairs sometimes and get them treats?" "What is a treat to a chicken?" "Cantaloupe seeds and the middles of squash. How do you know?" Rafik shrugged. "I have many secrets." "We could let them out someday. The yard was surrounded by a wall, so they won't be able to go far." Leanna felt a pleasant mischief lay its cool hand on her head again. Rafik said, "Did you see that landlord of ours? He could use some exercise. If he chases them, he'll get some." Leanna mused. "Shouldn't we wait at least a week? Let's establish ourselves as law-abiding lodgers first. Then—" A bus kicked up dust on the road after letting off a crowd of passengers, their new neighbors who didn't yet know they existed. Then we have fun. The next chapter for today is Interior Decorators. No father once said he liked to paint every board of our house a different color. Rafik tacked up bright travel posters from Poppy's travel agency friend on the freshly painted white walls of his room. He posted New York and Portugal, though he'd never been there, and the doors of Jerusalem and Texas, USA, the place he hoped to go someday. Leanna said, "Did you get any for me?" Rafik said she could have Lufthansa, but she didn't want it. She'd never even flown on that airline. In St. Louis, Leanna's room had been painted a deep, delicious color called raisin. Her walls looked like an art gallery arranged with block prints and dreamy watercolors by her friends. She had a bulletin board with silly pictures taken at people's birthday parties and dried flowers and pages ripped from magazines that were too nice to throw away. The gleaming golden eyes of a cat stared right at her in bed. She had a framed pastel portrait her mother had sketched of her when she was 2 and fell asleep on the blue rug in the living room. Leanna loved it very much and would have brought it to Jerusalem, but she worried the glass in the frame might break. She didn't bring Peachy's needlepoint alphabet or her personal portrait of Peter Pan either. Leanna thought she'd try living with blank walls for a month or two. It was just an experiment. And the last chapter for today, Jerusalem above my highest joy. The city was a cake made of layers of time. I'm not going, Leanna told Poppy. They were talking about City's invitation to come out to the village so she could teach her things on the weekends. Why doesn't she want to teach Rafik things too? Because she's a woman and she knows womanly things. She can keep them. Poppy sighed. 50 years from now, you will deeply regret this moment. He turned and stalked down the hallway toward his own bedroom. That's what he always said. 50 years from now, I'm going to be very busy, Leanna thought. A few days before, Poppy had actually thumbed through a Bible looking for a quote he liked from the Psalms. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its cunning. May my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. It made Leanna mad when he read it to her. Was there an underlying meaning? Was he saying she wasn't acting happy enough to be here? She wasn't in the mood to go shopping day after day to replenish their household supplies. She didn't even act excited about their new white Toyota, which smelled like fresh carpet and roses inside. We could drive to Damascus or Apollo, Poppy said, standing back proudly to admire his purchase. Well, we might have trouble getting across the border. Mostly, they would just be driving back and forth from Jerusalem to Ramallah to their house, which sat so neatly in between. Every morning at breakfast, when Poppy greeted Rafik and Leanna with his characteristic "Good morning" in a gloomiest way, I'm fair, I'm floundering, I'm lonesome. Or floundering, sorry. Leanna begged Poppy to pass by their new post office often to see if she had received any letters from home. What was wrong with Claire? She imagined Poppy watched her from the corner of his eye. The Abouds spent an entire exhausting weekend sightseeing nonstop around Jerusalem, morning till night. Poppy wanted them to get the lay of the land. She led them up winding alleyways and down ancient stairs to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre she'd been telling them about for years. The priests here were famous for arguing to get the best altars for their own services. Poppy had done his homework on the wall outside the door when he was a boy, and once saw two priests have a fistfight rolling in the dust. The dim chapel of Calvary held a mournful mural of Jesus laying arms outspread and dead on the cross after it was taken down and laid on the ground. Mary Magdalene pressed her head to his feet. Mrs. Aboud cried when she saw it. At the Garden of Gethsemane, she cried again. Jerusalem was not exactly fun and games. Leanna's mother held a tissue to her eyes. I'm just feeling very moved today, thinking of all Jesus went through. It's so haunting to stand on these same spots. There's always controversy, you know. Which spot is the exact one? Poppy said. It's close enough for me, she said. They walked along the crowded Via della Rosa, where Jesus carried the cross, and stopped at every station to Miss Aboud, so Miss Aboud could read aloud from her guidebook. German pilgrims, Italian humming hymns, and Japanese travelers wearing small purple caps converged on the same narrow pathways. At the Wailing Wall, Jews and Yarmulkis were tucking tiny notes and prayers into cracks between stones. Rafik wanted to know how long the notes stayed there. The most famous mosaic of Jerusalem, the Dome of the Rock, gleamed golden against the sky. The Abouds trudged around the outside of the old city while Poppy gave them a lesson in the gates. Damascus Gate, Herod's Gate, Jaffa Gate, the New Gate, the Lion's Gate, also known as St. Stephen's Gate, and their favorite, the Dung Gate. Rafik and Leanna debated how the Dung Gate had gotten its name. They stopped at 100 miniature stores with crooked floors so Poppy could greet the owners, kiss on both cheeks, introduce the family, and be offered coffee or tea, though he kept saying no. He said they had too many places to go to sit down anywhere. Everybody is a cousin of somebody, and Poppy knows them all, Leanna sighed to Rafiq. Yep, said Rafiq, but will you remember a single person you've seen? Good luck. Yeah. Leanna knew she would remember sensitive-looking Basama, who ran a spice shop, because he had a poster of the Hindu elephant-headed god Ganeshina on the wall of his shop, and that seemed a little unusual here. Leanna and Rafiq wanted to buy something from every food stand, but Poppy begged them to wait till their very large and special lunch as he greeted some ancient melon vendors who had known their grandfather. Leanna's eyes fell on a young man who appeared to be a dwarf, weighing bananas on an old-fashioned hanging scale. He stood on a tall wooden crate behind his cart. His bananas were stubby and short themselves, more like exclamation points than parentheses. He wore an orange stocking cap, though the weather was warm. His tiny blue jeans must have been made for a boy, and his face looked as stony as the streets of the city, chiseled and sharply defined. He didn't smile even when he had 3 customers lined up. He just nodded and weighed their bananas. Leanna kept staring at him the way she always picked one person in a crowd to stare at. She said to Rafiq, "See that banana man? I'll remember him. On the day I see him smile, I'll buy a banana." Maybe he was sad because he was short, or he had wanted to do something else in his life. "Where are the camels anyway?" Rafiq asked. "Poppy, I was hoping for camels." Poppy said they might see a few out in the desert toward Jericho, so immediately they begged him to take him there instead. Leanna groaned, "Our feet are killing us. Also, we're expiring from hunger. Isn't history better in small doses?" "My precious children," Poppy exclaimed. They ate lunch in a famous underground Arabic restaurant full of oriental rugs called the Philadelphia. Poppy gripped a waiter's wrist and introduced him around the table. "This young man's father," he said, "was the smartest student in my high school chemistry class." Leanna noticed another handsome young waiter watching her as he rolled silverware into white linen napkins and stacked them in a mound. Did he wink? She thought he winked. The owner, a nice man about Poppy's age, brought them steaming bowls of aromatic lentil soup, saying once they tasted it, they would keep coming back for more. The table filled up with olives, purple marinated turnips, plates of baba jahong and hummus, and hot flat breads even before the real lunch came. Leanna was feeling better by the minute. With so much holiness bumping up against other holiness, "Doesn't it seem strange Jerusalem would have had so much fighting?" she said. Leanna was thinking of her teacher, Mr. Hathaway, back home, remembering the skeptical way he lifted one eyebrow any time she spoke. "Think about dinner tables," her mother said. "Huh? How many fights there are in families every day. People and families love each other or want to love each other, but they fight anyway. With strangers, you don't care so much. Think about it." "Yeah," said Rafiq. "If you didn't love someone, why would you even bother to fight with him?" Poppy patted him. "My son, more of a philosopher every day." "Do you think the Arabs and Jews secretly love one another?" Leanna asked. "I think," Poppy said, "they are bonded for life, whether they like it or not, like that kind of glue that won't let go." 2 strong rays of light entered the subterranean restaurant through high-up windows along the street. One sunbeam fell directly onto the octagonal center design of a blue oriental rug, and the other lit up the red head of a very old lady. Poppy whispered, "See her hair? She dyes it with henna." "That's what I'll do after I get my eagle tattoo," Rafiq whispered. Being here with you all, I feel my heart has come back into my body. Poppy lifted a teacup and smiled. Still, Leanna noticed Poppy didn't take them over to Western Jewish Jerusalem for any kind of tour. He said he didn't know it, and they might have to get a tour bus for that. The handsome waiter slipped a plate of baklava onto their table for dessert. They hadn't even ordered it.